All right, Advent of Code day 4. What I wanted to do real quick before I start is I slept on it and I realized that for day 3 I had completely overcomplicated my parsing logic for this, and so I was doing this thing where I was trying to like take this list and then append to the right of it a bunch of times depending on what the trajectory was. And I realized I didn't need to do that at all. This toboggan trajectory, the terrain could actually just use a modulus to handle the overflow. And so I didn't need to do any appending. So instead I rewrote that parser to just read the file line by line, pass it into this terrain class, and then if the x coordinate is out of bounds of that string, just mod it, and then it does the same thing as it gives you that character that's translated, because as soon as it overflows, then you're back at 0, and then so I was able to simplify a bunch of that, and I pushed that up to the repo, and so that's in there currently. So I just wanted to highlight that. So let's get started with day 4. You arrive at the airport only to realize that you grabbed your North Pole credentials instead of your passport. Hate it when that happens. While these documents are extremely similar, North Pole credentials aren't issued by a country and therefore aren't actually valid for travel in most of the world. It seems like you're not the only one having problems, though. A very long line has formed in the automatic passport scanners, and the delay could upset your travel itinerary. Due to some questionable network security, you realize you might be able to solve both of these problems at the same time. The automatic passport scanners are slow because they're having trouble detecting which passports have all required fields. The expected fields are as follows. We have these fields, birth year, issue year, okay. Passport data is validated in bash files, which is your puzzle input. Each passport is represented as a sequence of key value pairs separated by spaces or new lines. Passports are separated by blank lines. So this would be a passport here. This would be a passport, and you can see here's the eye color. So this is the key value pairs of these. So in this case, this one does not, it does have the birth year, the issue year, expiration year, height. This one does have the height. So the first one is valid. All 8 fields are present. The second one is invalid because it's missing this height field. Okay. Third passport is interesting. The only missing field is CID. Missing CID is fine. Treat this passport as valid. Okay, so CID is optional. Not a passport at all. Surely nobody would mind if you made the system temporarily ignore missing CID fields. Treat this passport as valid. The fourth passport is missing 2 fields, CID and birth year. This is fine, but missing any other field is not, so this passport is invalid. Your improved system would report 2 valid passports. Count the number of valid passports, those that have all required fields. Treat CID as optional. In your batch file, how many passports are valid? Okay, so first thing we usually do is just create a folder. We're going to write a test around this and then that test will with test-driven development, we write the test around this input, and then we create our classes around those tests. So I'm going to create a day 4. Put a file in here that says that's day4.txt. And I'm going to write a test. So let's make a day 4 package. And I'm gonna call this password, or not passport, passport validator. So first we need to figure out how to parse these. These are a little bit inconsistent. I see that spaces or new lines are valid for these, but then blank lines are the ones that separate the passports. So let's first, we need to first figure out how we're going to parse this input. And I think what I would like to have at the end of this is a list of lists of these, or a list of a map of these key value pairs is what I want. Okay. So I'm gonna, like I've done previously, I'm gonna copy some of this parsing logic from here, just this read lines. Change this to read password, and then like I said, I want to make a list of map of string to string. So this is it's gonna be a list. The list, this map of string string is gonna be this passport of key value pairs. I'm using a map because a map naturally represents key value pairs. So what we want to do is we want to read the lines, and then we want to, why is my cursor not here? Where did my cursor go? Not sure what happened. I'm going to restart IntelliJ real quick. Okay, it's back. So ideally I could group these based on blank lines. But these have to be kind of in sequence. So yeah, I'm thinking of a way to do this functionally. I wonder if I could just split this. Can I split? No, I need to, I might just want to like read text, and then it just gives me all of this input as a string. And then can I just split it like this? And then the pattern is just going to be if I could just do a regex of a blank line, that would be ideal. just gonna Google Kotlin split by blank lines. Oh, that's another way to do it. I could just do split by these new lines. 2 new lines in a row. And then dot. And then this gives me a string, and I'm going to split this string by spaces. Can I do this to map? I think first what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make this a void method and then call it, and just make sure that this is what I expect. Val input is equal to this, and then I'm just going to print the input, set a breakpoint here, and then read passport, and then I'm going to pass in day4.txt, and then just make sure that this is split in the way that I expect, and then we can handle the rest. And meanwhile, I'm going to crack this LaCroix. Okay, so we got 4, which is what we expect. Okay, so this is another thing that we need to deal with. Some of these fields are delimited by spaces, and some of them are new lines. So this input is a little bit messy. So now we want to, for each of these, right? So we want to map this input. For each of these, we want to go it.split, and the pattern, the delimiters is going to be, turn off alerts real quick. Do not disturb, whatever, for an hour. We want to split, but we want to be able to have multiple delimiters here. So is this allowed? I can give it a regex pattern. Oh, I can just give it a regex, which I think is a Kotlin thing. And then I want, this is going to give me, this syntax gives me an option of, we want, I think, or just a space, okay. So this will split on new lines or spaces. And then we just want to map these, right? Dot. I think we want to, can we group by? So the other thing we want to do is, there's these colons here, right? So HCL, hair color, colon, this. And so we want to split it again on here, and then this is the key, this is the value. So I'm going to do another breakpoint here. Val, this is going to be val entries, is this, print entries. And then I'll set a breakpoint here. I just want to make sure that this is split as we expect, and then I can do an evaluate expression and then experiment with how to convert this to a map. This did not hit the breakpoint. Okay, so these entries for this one, perfect, that's what we want. We have these key value pairs here. So now we just need to figure out how do I group these as a map. So like I need to do something like entries dot map to I think I could probably just I'm gonna map it, and then it, which is each entry dot split, and then I'm gonna split it on this colon, and then I want to convert it to, so this is gonna give me a list of things that are split. I need to, so Kotlin split to map. So split.associate, looks like I can do that. .associate left to right to in, okay. So entries is already split. So I think if I just do associate and then it, which is the entry.split, and then this is the colon that we want, and then make this bigger. This is kind of messy, but I just want to prove it out. So what does this give us? Perfect. Okay, so this gives us the hash map. Exactly what we want. Okay, perfect. We're just going to redo this, but it'll make it a little bit cleaner. Entry dot left. Do entry 0 to entry 1. Okay. So this should, yeah, this will give us the this will give us that map that we wanted. And then this will automatically generate this list of map string. Okay. So val passport is equal to this. And then I'm just gonna, I think I'm gonna write my own passport class that just, I could use a Jackson object mapper here, but I think that's overkill. I think I'll just manually do validation on these fields. And I'm just going to double check that this is what I expect it to be. Just this list of key value pairs. Run it in debug. Didn't like it. Index out of bounds on line 22. Oh, the implicit is shadowed. So I really want I'm going to just call this pair. Pair 0 to pair 1. Okay, that's probably why. It was just getting confused about what it was because it was overloaded down below. Try that again. Didn't like it still. What's going on here? Are there some of these that are empty? No, it doesn't look like it. Why did that choke? Step through this real quick. Oh, I see. Map. I think I'm gonna do map not null here because it's giving me some kind of a null value at the end there. Let's try this. No, still didn't like it. I'm gonna just filter out things that are empty and then map them. What is going on? I'm gonna set up a conditional breakpoint here. Pair.size is less than 2, and then we'll run this. Okay, so pair size is 1. So this means my entry is empty, right? So this obviously, I'm gonna just get rid of this because it's not catching whatever this bug is. Oh, maybe it's just here, is filter, maybe filter not it is empty. Let's try that. Let's see if I can filter it here. Filter not item is empty. Maybe I think I'll name this entry to be consistent with what it was below. Entry is empty. Okay. Let's try this. See if it hits this conditional breakpoint that we set. Okay, perfect. That was it. So we got a passport of size 4. And then it has these various fields. I think I might just use the Jackson object mapper just to cleanly map this into a passport object. might be a little bit overkill, but we're doing it anyway. Day 4, and I'm going to create a password class just so I can deserialize it here. Passport, and then this is going to be a data class, and we're going to have some fields here that match up with these guys here. I'm just going to copy these and create some variables. IntelliJ has this handy thing where I can just drag these and then just make these vals, and then make them, I'm going to make them all optional strings, and then that way we can run through and have a list of them to validate. What I need to do is in my build.gradle to pull in the Kotlin object mapper for Jackson. Two 2.12.0 is the latest. Is this the one? I just need object mapper really, but let's just copy this. And then I'm also going to need the Kotlin, paste, and then implementation. This might actually be more trouble than it's worth. I'm just gonna write a this is only what, like 8 fields? I don't know, I'm of two minds about it, but I think I will just maybe this is going to be a map of passport. Maybe that's what I'll do. Or a list of passport. And then I'll handle it here. It's easy enough. I think it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to map this, get this map of key value pairs, and then I'm going to map it to a passport. And the passport takes, Kotlin has this convention where you can specify variable names, and just so it's clear here, I'm going to type this, byr equals it dot get or default. I think, is this, I just want to make sure this doesn't throw an exception if it doesn't have this key. Returns the value or null if such a key is not present, which is what we want. So these strings and passport are all optional, and then we'll have a validation method on it. So I'm just going to make a bunch of copies of this. We're going to go IYR, it's.IYR. I actually might just do the same thing that I did a second ago. Paste this, and then go, and we'll just have some commas here. And we don't need val because these are parameters. Cool. Okay. So now I have a map of passports. And then I just need to check, I just need a method on here that says is valid. So I'm just going to make a function is valid, which returns Boolean, and then this is I'm going to return I'm going to make a list of required fields, list of it's basically these ones, right? These are all the required ones. So here's my list. And it'd be nice if I could just have these on. Just gonna make this cleaner. You know what? I'm gonna keep it the way I had it a second ago. Okay. So here's my required fields. And essentially, I only care if any of these are null. I'm gonna make this in a, I'm gonna make a private val for this, just so it's there and it's already instantiated, so it doesn't get instantiated every time we call this method. So basically, I'm just going to return required fields.any, and if any of these are null, then we want to make sure it's not equal to null. Or no, if any of them, let's see, so we actually want this to be all of these. All of these must not be null because they're required. And do we care if it's empty? Like, let's say it has the field, but it doesn't have anything in it. Missing any other field. I think we can assume that's okay. So now what we want to do is, in this password validator test, I think I'm just going to call this password test because the object that we're testing is the password. And then we're going to change this to validate test passports. Example passports. So this is going to be my passports, and then valid count is going to be passwords dot count I keep getting passports and passwords confused because earlier in this challenge they had us I think it was day 2 that they had us working on passwords. So passports dot count, we want it dot is valid. So they want us to count the valid passports, and then so valid count should be 2. Okay. Let's just make sure. All right, so now we can take our full puzzle input, duplicate this day4-full.txt, and I'm just glancing through this to see if there's anything that looks suspicious or that we didn't account for in our logic, and I don't see anything. You know, like some kind of empty key value set. I think we're okay. So I'm going to paste this in here. I'm going to make a copy of this test. So my passports, I'm going to parse in this day4-full.txt, and I'm just going to print out that valid count. We run it. Code always runs fine the first time, right? Well, mine does. I don't know about yours. 192, valid. Here's our answer. That's the right answer. Let's continue to part 2. The line is moving more quickly now, but you overhear airport security talking about how passports with invalid data are getting through. Better add some validation real quick. So now this has to be, birth year has to be 4 digits between these two values. At least 2010, at most 2020. So I think we're going to need to make a I'm trying to decide whether or not to just make a separate part 2 passport. I think that's what I'll do since these rules are so different. I might convert these into ints. Okay, so this is a significant change. So I'm going to create a part 2 password. Part 2 passport. I know this is a little inconsistent with. I'm going to just suffix it. Password part 2. Passport part 2. Okay. So this birth year, we still have ignored, missing or not. Okay. So these required fields are still there. This birth year is going to be an int. Issue year is an int. And I might just make methods to validate each one of these fields, and then call it.isValid. But I can't do that because they're not all of the same type. But this eye color is going to be an enum. I'm going to create a new enum class for eye color. AMB, BLU, PRN, PRY. I might actually, I think this is overkill. I'm just going to have a list of eye colors. Create a valid colors, valid values is a list of strings that they give us here. be a Boolean. And so we want to return ECL not equal to null and ECL in valid values. Birth year. And I think these are going to be private. There's no reason these need to be exposed on this, this class here. So essentially, isValid is now going to return required fields. So the required fields have to all be present and validate ECL. So I'm just going to go through and just make a bunch of validation methods for each of these. So BYR, birth year. So I'm already doing the null check here with the required fields, and this will fill fast if any of these are null. So I'm gonna assume that these are, Kotlin might complain here. Sometimes what you run into with Kotlin is that since these are optional, sometimes you have to either do a not null check before you can operate on it, or add these 2 exclamation points to it, but it's not complaining here, so that must be okay. So birth year, I might actually, since the compiler is going to complain, I might just remove these required fields and then do the null check in each of these, just to be defensive against that and to get by the compiler complaining. I'm just going to go validate ECL. ECL is not equal to null, and it's in the valid values. And I'm going to stub these out real quick. Boolean. So validate birth year, validate issue year. Oops. Validate EYR. Validate height. I already have validate ECL. And validate PID. And then we're just going to ignore this CID. Doesn't matter. It's ignored. And then I'm just going to put a to-do here. UIR, IYR. So BYR, IYR. I'm going to just put these in order. UIR, IYR, BYR. HGT, HCL is one that we missed because, oh yeah, I just missed it. HCL. Validate ECL. validate PID. Okay. So now we just need to code in these rules for these. I still might handle the... I still might just handle these as strings and then I can count the length of them. 4 digits, at least 1920. I mean, it doesn't really matter because these are always going to be 4 digits between these two values. But I can handle... Doesn't... I changed my mind. I'm going to go int here, int. So it is not equal to null. And, or not it, BYR is not equal to null, and BYR is at least greater than or equal to 1920, and at most 2002. Expiration year is also an int. Issue year, it's going to be the same deal, where this has to be 2010 and at most 2030. Or no, 2020. I was gonna say, how could it be issued in the future? And this is also, we want to change this to issue year. And then this is the EYR, expiration year. It has to be at least 2020 and at most 2030. So in 10 years. Height has to be a number followed by either CM or IN. This one's going to be a little bit trickier. I'm going to first check if HTT is null. We'll just return false. And now we know we have a non-null value. And we are passing that in as a string. So it does need to be a number followed by either CM or IN. So we need to use a regex to look at the end of the string. And then I'm just going to pass in it needs to end with CM or IN. I think I'm going to just write a quick test around this. Password parts to test. I'm going to delete this. Read passport. Just going to give me a list of passport part 2. And we want the birth year. If it's there, we're going to convert it to an int. Same with this. Same with this. And what I want to do is just take I do want to write a method to just test out my logic for this, for the validate height, and then I can move that into the passport test. So val height is equal to 60 in, let's call that, say height, dot substring find. Can I do find? I do want to parse this out into, I need to get the value of it, right? So height is a number followed by either centimeters or inches. So what I want to do is just parse out the first few numbers. I'm going to put this in the evaluator here. Passport part 2, why is this? 2. There we go. Find is going to be operating on a well, I mean, essentially we can rule out if it doesn't have inches or centimeters in it, then we can rule that out. So it'd be nice if we could just take the last 2 characters of it. So maybe I'll just do a substring of just the last 2 characters. Substring is going to be start index of height dot length -1 or -2, and then height dot length -1. Is that right? So I think it's -3. Evaluate. Nope, -2. And then length. Okay, that's what we want. I'm going to call this suffix is equal to this. I'm going to switch the suffix, or in Kotlin it's when. So when suffix, and then it's going to be in. And then the prefix is going to be everything else. So I'm going to go suffix. I am going to be repeating code here. I just don't want to take the prefix until I know that suffix. Does that make sense? First, I'm just going to do cm is this, and then default, or I think it's else return false, right? And this is actually going to be HGT. And why is it complaining here? Inline variable. Okay. Okay, so this gives me the substring. This is going to be the same code, but I do want to make sure that it ends with this before I actually parse out the prefix. I guess it doesn't really hurt to parse this out above. I'm going to get rid of this. Val prefix is and then we're going to invert this. So we're going to substring from 0 to this length minus 2. And so prefix.toInt should be, I'm going to do a return when, so you can return from here. And I'm going to just say false here. Format that. Prefix.toInt. I'm going to say value. Value is this, and then value is less than or equal to 193. I'm going to use this as the upper bound. Value is greater than or equal to 150 and less than 193. Convert to a range check. There we go. Oh, that's cool. I might as well do that with this one too. Forgot about that range check. That's handy. Okay. 2020, 2030. That's a lot cleaner in this. Yeah, so that's a lot cleaner. Okay, so 150, 193, and if it's centimeters, we want this. I might just do prefix.toInt, and then I'm going to just change this to value toInt, and then this is, we want this to be 59 and 76. PID needs to be a 9-digit number, including leading zeros. I think we can just use a straight up regex for this. We're just going to say regex and then digits all the way. Why is that complaining? Can I do 2 escape characters? There we go. I think in Kotlin you can do repeat. Repeat 9 times. And then we're just use an else operator. False. Okay, so we're validating the PID, and that's it. We're done there. We said ECL is not null. Actually, hair color is the one that we're missing. A pound followed by exactly 6 characters, 0 through 9 or A through F. This is another one that we can do a regex for. So we're going to return this HCL, and then we want to match on a pound sign followed by I'm going to go to my, there's this regex checker. Online. So hair color valid is going to be, oh, it's like a hexadecimal. So actually the test string is this one, and then the regex is going to be a £, and then 0 through 9, or A through F. I don't want to match this let's see. Should I just do this? Is there a way to repeat? Regex, repeat, n times. I think I can just do 0, 9, A through F, and then, was it 6 times? Yeah, okay. So that'll be fine. Okay, yep, that's what we want. Let's try it out. And I gotta sign up. I'm gonna have to time box this for 10 more minutes. Otherwise, I'm not gonna have time to grab dinner. But I will be back. Password part 2 test. We want to read in this day 4 input. And then the valid count in the ones that we what did it tell us? So here's the invalid, here's some invalid passports, and some valid ones. I'm gonna say day 4 dash part 2. So in this one we have 4 valid ones and then 4 invalid. Okay. So valid count for this day 4 dash part 2 should be 4. And let's hope this doesn't blow up, because it might. There's a lot of logic in there to validate these. Sure enough, it blew up. File name must not be null. Day 4 dash, oh, I didn't put .txt there. That would help. Okay. So it expected 4, but actually was 0. I'm going to switch this so that I'm just going to paste in the valid passports, because obviously something is a little bit too strict in my validation. And so I want to make sure that like all of these should be valid. So where is this failing? one's true. And I'm going to switch back to this true. I don't know if that passed. EYR, true. HGT, false. Okay, something's off with the height. So value is 74. 74 inches, that's what we want. So it's telling us that this is valid, 74 inches. Height, okay, if inches, the number must be 59 and at most 76. Oh, I got these mixed up. So inches must be this, centimeters must be this. Okay. Let's try this again. Let's just run the whole thing to see if... Okay, cool. So 4 of those were valid. And then we want to make sure that the invalid ones failed. Okay, so here's all of them. Perfect. All right. So in your batch file, how many passwords are valid? Password part 2 test. Validate all passwords with part 2. I don't think there were only 4. I think I ran it on, yeah, day 4 full.txt is the one I want. It failed. Number format exception for input string. So yeah, in this case we can't always trust the input. I think I might just wrap this in a try. This is not the best code I've ever written in my life, but I'm in a rush. I'm just going to return false if this blows up on us. Okay, 101 is what we got. And I'll probably clean that up later, but for now, we got the right answer. All right, we're good, we're done. Day 4, part 2, we're making progress. All right, I'll see you next time.